I think we all agree that it's been chaotic the last 2 years. I think we all can agree that a lot of people have died. Pandemic came in and all kinds of bad things started to happen. I mean, my feeling was from the very beginning that our government, all the way from the top to the down, was totally clueless and disorganized, and nobody knew what they were dealing with or what they were talking about. And as a result, when you do not have a cohesive policy, health policy, as a result, you end up today with 600, almost 50,000 people are dead in this country alone. We have another surge right now in Florida and in many other states all over the place. In Florida, they are closing schools now because kids are getting infected and they are quarantining, I think, something like 20,000 students already after just 1 week of school. So, this has also caused a huge division in the country. You have people on one hand who are saying this is all, this is a genocide. Government wants to kill all of these people. Government probably invented this vaccine as a bio-weapon, the disease, and the vaccine now is going to kill even more people. And then on the other side, you have people who are saying, you guys are crazy, you need to take the vaccine because the country is in trouble and people are dying and you're putting everybody's lives in danger and you must get vaccinated and we must have all of these laws and rules in place, where people are getting vaccinated and wearing masks and all of that stuff. Well, you've seen people in the stores, right? You have videos over there of people actually in Costco punching each other out and pulling somebody's mask off and yelling curses at other people, because they see things differently. You see, the country is divided in such a way that people see each other as enemies. If you are on the side of we need to all get vaccinated, then you see the other people as enemies and they are going to destroy my health and they're threatening my kids and they're threatening my well-being and why are they so crazy, And then if you're on the other side, you're looking at these people and you're saying, oh, they're all sheep. They're just following whatever the government is saying, and they're all getting vaccinated. Look at them, stupid people wearing a mask, Why are they doing that? Mask is not going to help them. And this is the kind of conversation that we have going on in this country and where people literally hate each other. I looked up real quick, this morning actually, how many people have actually gotten the vaccine so far. And these are the statistics. This is the first shot. So these people, they got one shot. What does that mean? That means that they're not opposed to being vaccinated. Okay, so they're not opposed. They didn't get the second one yet, but they got the first one. So the age is 18 to 24, 57.3%. So if you're looking at, this is for the whole United States. 18 to 24, 57.3. 25 to 30, to the age of 39, 61% of those people have received at least one shot. And then people who are between the ages of 40 and 49, 70.4% of them have received at least one shot. That means they're not opposed to the vaccine. They think it's okay. They think it's fine. They think it's going to protect them from this disease, so they've chosen to take the vaccine. 50 to 64, 79.1%. You're looking at almost 80% there. These are the people 50 to 64. It doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat. This is across the board. People who have chosen to receive at least one vaccine. Now, look at this one. 65 to 74, senior citizens, 93.4% have already taken one shot. I've looked up Florida, which is a highly, very much a Republican state. Senior citizens, 65 and over, almost 99% of them have received at least one vaccine. So you have a sentiment out there. And then 65 to 74, I told you, 93.4, and then 75 and over, 88.4%. So you have a huge majority of the people in this country who feel that, yeah, I need a vaccine because it's going to help me to overcome this disease if I catch it, you see. So this is the overall sentiment. Now, I want to mention something else. What does freedom mean? We talk about freedom in this country, right? And I want to put up that next slide on the screen. I don't know if you see that. I mean, freedom means choice. Some people are going to choose the alternative lifestyle. We don't have kids in here, so some people are going to choose, a guy is going to choose to marry another guy. And a woman is going to choose to have a girlfriend. That's freedom. And you may not like it, but that's what we have in this country. We choose to worship on Saturday. We have that freedom to do that. There are people who choose to worship on Sunday, and they go to church on Sunday. In the United States, we have over 1 million Muslims. They choose to worship on a Friday, I think. They go to a mosque, and they have their time of worship. Some people choose to use drugs. We see them every time we go downtown to feed the homeless. They just choose that. You can't tell them, you can tell them, right? You can have a law, but freedom means that there are going to be people who are going to use drugs. Some people are going to choose an abortion. Some people are going to choose to wear a mask. We have several here in this sanctuary right now. And some people will choose not to wear a mask. Freedom means choice. And we're blessed to live in a country where we still can choose a lot of these things. We can't choose everything. You can't choose to run through a red light. You know what I mean? You can't. I don't like seat belts, and I can choose not to wear one. But if I see a policeman close by, I'm thinking maybe I better put it on. You know what I mean? Yeah, we can choose some things, but there are some things we can't. You can't choose to kill somebody or to beat somebody up. There was a guy who got into an argument with somebody. This was not too long ago, maybe a month and a half ago. And he punched the guy. And the guy fell down and hit his head and died. So now you got angry and you punched somebody and you're going to spend now the rest of your life in jail. You can't choose to do certain things. But freedom means you can choose a lot of things that do not affect other people, that do not hurt other people. A lot of people, as you have seen here, have chosen to be vaccinated, a vast majority of the country. And then there are some who don't want to. They feel that this is bad, and they are genuinely afraid of the vaccine. I've done a lot of radio shows with people, biochemists, doctors. There is a genuine reason to be skeptical of big pharma. They have a law on the books in this country that you cannot sue big pharmaceutical companies over a vaccine. If you get a vaccine, any vaccine, and if you have a bad reaction to it and it kills you, there is nobody you can sue. The law is protecting them. So people are saying, well, if I can't sue them, why would I want to take it? There are people who have gotten all kinds of bad reactions with vaccines, and they got sick. So now we have a segment of population in America who says, I don't want to get vaccinated. Keep that stuff away from me. Freedom. Freedom of choice in this country. You choose how you want to live your life, you see? Some people choose to beg on the street corner. And we see them. Well, me and Milos, we came to church. He says, when do you want to go to church? I says, let's leave at 6:30. We left the house at 6:30. By the time we were on the road, 5 minutes later, there was already a guy on Sheridan and one of the cross streets with a sign. Already, at 6:30 in the morning. And I said, wow, this guy is an early riser. This guy is a go-getter, But some people choose to live their life that way. Most of us, we choose to work, right? You choose to work. You live in a free country. Let's work. Let's make money. Let's get somewhere. Let's save money. Let's buy a nice car, right? You have choices. Some people choose to live under a tarp downtown. Some people have to, but some people choose to. That's what freedom is all about. Now, people ask me, Pastor Gordon, what do you think? Should I get a vaccine or should I not? And, generally right-wing people, Republicans, it seems there is this perception that they are against the vaccines. So, we all know that all the Democrats say, go get a vaccine, right? From Joseph Biden, president, everybody says, go get a vaccine. You need to be vaccinated. You need to be vaccinated. And then there is this perception that Republicans don't believe in that, and that's the wrong perception. There is a saying that says, don't listen to what people say, watch what they do. Remember that? And I have that on the screen as well. So I looked up some prominent Republicans to see what they say. There is a guy by the name of Kevin McCarthy. He is the House Minority Leader. That's what he says. You see it right there on the screen. I believe in vaccines. Big-time Republican. Very much against the current president of the country. The next one I saw was Sean Hannity. Super popular TV host, one of the most watched TV shows on TV. And he said, I can't say it enough. Enough people have died. We don't need any more death. And then he said, and it absolutely makes sense for many Americans to get vaccinated. I believe in science. I believe in the science of vaccination. So don't listen, some people say, well, this is bad. You shouldn't, Dr. Fauci, all of this, Look what they do. Look at what some of these people are doing. Look at this next slide. Growing numbers of Republicans urge vaccinations amid Delta surge. That's Mitch McConnell right there on the screen. Look at the next one. President Trump and former First Lady, they quietly received their vaccine in January. This is the Republican president, former president of the country. He received his vaccine back in January. Would he have taken it if he thought it was bad for him and his family? The next one is Florida Republican governor, DeSantis. He's the guy that all the hoopla is all about, right? He's fighting against mask mandates and all of this other stuff. Well, guess what? He took his vaccine. Why? Why did he take it? If this is just a flu, if this is just nothing, you're just going to get some headache, why are they taking it? Washington Post reports that 92% of GOP senators are vaccinated right now as we speak. 92%. So what's going on? Why do we have this huge, issue here in this country with vaccinations? And I'll tell you what I think. This is my opinion. I think they're all taking the vaccine because they're all scared that this is a serious disease. Everybody, Republican, Democrat. But what is the real issue for me as a Seventh-day Adventist here? The next slide says vaccinations, forced or free market. And this is where I think we have to really think about this whole issue. You see. What is free market? Free market is this. You want to put your dad into a nursing home. And you call the CEO of that nursing home and you say, hey, is your staff vaccinated? I want to bring my dad and he's going to live there. Or you call the hospital and you say, I'm about to have a major heart surgery in your hospital that's going to cost maybe $500,000, maybe $1 million. That hospital is going to make huge profit. And you say, I want to know if my surgeon is vaccinated. I want to know if the nursing staff is vaccinated. That's called free market, you see. So now that CEO, he sends a memo to all of his employees and he says, hey, I need you all to be vaccinated by such and such a date. That's free market. If you own a business, You can tell your employees, and in the past, we have had many businesses vaccinate people for other diseases because they don't want you to lose time off work. They don't want you to infect somebody else because they're afraid that they're going to get sued. You see, you got these cruise companies in Florida, they're suing the governor because they want to be able to find out if the people who buy tickets to go on a cruise are vaccinated. Why? Because if somebody gets sick on their ship, they don't want to be sued. They want to say, we took all of the steps to protect ourselves. That's called free market. I don't have a problem with that. Don't have a problem with that. You can do that. We had, last year in this church, the government said, hey, everybody has to wear a mask indoor. And we said to everybody, you know what? I mean, we're not going to fight you and wrestle you to the ground, but that's what the government says. We don't want to have our church closed, and maybe some people resented that we did that. You know what happened during that time when we were doing that here at this church? We had people coming in from other churches, and you know what they said? They said, I want to come here because in my church, nobody's wearing a mask and I don't feel safe. So you have it both ways, you see. And some people say, I don't want to go to that church because they all wear a mask and I don't want my freedoms, encroached on, and so I'm going to go over here. That's free market. But what happens when it becomes forced? What would happen if the government said, hey, you know what? You don't have a choice anymore. You have to get vaccinated. Would you have a problem with that? I would. I already have a problem with a seatbelt. I don't know why is government telling me to wear a seatbelt. That should be my choice, right? But they're going to say, well, if you get hurt, then we all have to collectively pay for your bill, and the taxes are going to go up. And they got their reasoning, But I do have a problem if it's going to be forced on everybody. Why do I have a problem with that? As a Seventh-day Adventist, I have a problem with that because I believe that the time is coming when all kinds of things are going to be forced upon us as Christians. You see, where you are not going to have the choice. When they are going to tell you have to do it this way, and if you don't do it this way, we're going to shut your church down. So what I see right now going on, and I'm going to talk next a little bit about the mark of the beast, but when it comes to vaccinations and all of that, I see huge chaos. I see a huge chaos going on everywhere in the whole country. People don't know what to do. I'm not going to tell anybody whether or not they should get vaccinated. That's why you have your doctor. What do I know about vaccines? I'm not an expert. I'm not a scientist. Go talk to your doctor. And it's better if you have a doctor who is a personal friend, somebody you can trust. You see, go talk to them, because today on the internet you can find anything. You can find doctors that say it's going to kill you. You can find others who are going to say you're crazy if you don't take it. It's your choice. It's your personal decision. I believe in that freedom. Talk to your doctor. Talk to the other friends. Find out if they had a reaction when they took it. Do your own research. I have a good friend who does a radio show with me. He's a martial arts expert. And I said to him, hey, did you get vaccinated? He said, yeah, I did. I said, well, how come? Because I know that he's generally anti-vaccines. And he says, well, we work with kids. And I went and I looked at all of the ingredients. And he says, usually what happens with vaccines is that the big pharma companies, they do not publish the ingredients of a particular vaccine. Supposedly, they don't want the competition to steal it. So you never know what's in it. But he says on these three, Pfizer, Moderna, and the other one, Johnson & Johnson, he says on these three, because they are experimental, the government made them publish all of the ingredients. And he says, I went and I looked at everything, and I looked every one of those ingredients. He says, I'm not the scientist, but I looked everything up. And he says, finally, I decided that for me, And my wife, this was a good choice. And it wasn't going to hurt me, and I needed to do this because guess what? Parents are calling him. They want to enroll their kids into a martial arts school, and they're saying, hey, by the way, you vaccinated? So he made this. That's how you make your decision. You talk to your doctor, you talk to people who know what they're talking about, and you decide for yourself if this is a good thing for you or not. Pastor Gordon does not decide that for you. What if I tell somebody, hey, you need to get vaccinated, and they go get a shot, and then they have a violent reaction against that vaccine? And then what? Then they say, hey, Pastor Gordon, you told me to do this. Or if I tell them, don't do it, and then they catch COVID, and they end up on a ventilator. So my advice to every one of you also is this. Don't tell anybody what to do. This is people's personal, we're talking about life and death. I don't want to be responsible for somebody. And by the way, do wear your seatbelt. I don't want to be responsible for you splattering all over that windshield, so I'm telling you, I think it's a good idea that you wear one. It is a good idea. I just don't like it. But it's a good idea. I want to tell you a quick little story before we talk about Mark of the Beast. As they traveled along, I'm reading from our next slide. As they traveled along, Jesus entered a village where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister named Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to his message. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations to be done. She came to Jesus and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her to help me. See what I put on the left-hand side? A lot of Christians have become political activists. A lot of Christians are lamenting that Trump is gone. And a lot of Christians are celebrating, that the other guy is now in the White House. And they are trying to push their views on everybody else. That's not why we are here. That's not why we are here. When people look at you, do they see a political activist? Or do they see a follower of Jesus? Our agenda is a little bit different. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, you vote for who you want to vote for, and you do in that voting booth what your heart tells you to do. But our job is something a little bit different than making sure that some party is in power. So Martha was distracted. A lot of Christians today are distracted by politics, by pandemic, by vaccinations, by websites, by all kinds of different views that are out there. They have become distracted. And Jesus said, Martha, Martha, the Lord replied, you are worried and upset about many things. And I talk to people, friends, family, Christians, and they are worried and upset about many things. I have a friend that I talked to about this, another pastor, and I said, what do you think? He says, God is on the throne, and he is not about to abdicate. He's not going to step down. God is in charge. God is in charge. However, wherever this is going, God is in charge. And I want to tell you, what we are going through, every generation of humanity on this planet has gone through something similar. Wars, pandemics, famines, earthquakes, floods, disaster after disaster, diseases, horrible diseases. We've just had it too good for so many years that we forgot that we live on a violent planet where all kinds of bad things can happen to people. Some years ago in Indonesia, you remember that? Within minutes, 300,000 people were swept away by a tsunami. 300,000. Within minutes. They didn't even have a chance to get out of the bed. The house and everything was taken away. Look at Haiti the other day. Over 1,000 people dead. Houses just collapsed on top of them. I mean, we live in a violent place. God is in charge. We cannot worry about everything that goes on in this world. Jesus says Mary has chosen the good portion, and it will not be taken away from her. Our primary goal should be to focus on our relationship with Jesus and on becoming better people. Becoming a better human being. You see, and I want to talk about that next a little bit. So, mark of the beast. Mark of the beast it's a religious thing. In the Seventh-day Adventist teachings, we believe that mark of the beast it has nothing to do with vaccines. I think what's happening with the vaccines and with everything else that the governments around the world do is basically teaching us and conditioning us to become obedient and to do what they tell us to do. Sometimes it's for our safety, sometimes it's for whatever, no good reason at all, but they have all these laws. And look, we cannot escape that. We all are obedient. We pay taxes because we don't want them to take away our house. And we watch the traffic laws, and we try not to hurt anybody, and we don't steal, and we don't do any of these things that are going to get us in trouble. You see, why? Because we are a society that has decided we cannot hurt each other, so we have to be obedient to all kinds of laws. Wearing a seatbelt or not has nothing to do with my relationship to God. You see that? Now we're talking about the difference. There are laws that have absolutely nothing to do with my relationship to God. Obeying the tax laws and whatnot, I don't see that as a problem. But every once in a while, and we have seen this throughout the history, human history, the governments have passed laws that interfere with my relationship with God, interfere with how I worship God, interfere with how I understand God, interfere with how I interpret the Bible. And those are the laws that I should not be, that I'm not going to obey. Those are the laws that you have to reject. Is everything that's happening in the country right now leading us eventually to that point? Yeah. Is it all organized? Is it all put together? Is there some big power? I think there are several powers behind everything, When it comes to vaccinations and corona, I think it's mostly about money. It's about pharmaceutical companies making a ton of money. Government is paying for all of these shots, you see. A lot of bad things in this world are driven by the desire for profit, you see. So I see that as a driving force behind a lot of these things. But in the Adventist church, we believe that the mark of the beast has to do with how we worship God. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy is what we believe. You see, you remember that text in Exodus chapter 20? It says, 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. Now we are looking at the commandment that's in the heart of the Bible. You see, we're looking at something that God himself has spoken. But the 7 days of Sabbath to the Lord your God. It says clearly, on that day you shall not do any work. Neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. And then look at verse 11. Why? Because in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth. In this commandment, God declares that he is the creator. This is the only commandment, this is the only place where God creates, where God clearly states, I'm the one who created you. I'm the one who created this planet. If you're going to respect me, this is how I want you to respect me. By remembering this day, this particular day of the week, and you don't work. You don't work. Because work is to enrich yourself, is to better yourself, is to make your life better. That's what work is for. And you got 6 days to do that. But on this day, you remember me. you have to remember who you are. You have to remember where you came from. You have to know who you are. I come from Croatia. I know who my father was. I know what my father did. I know my roots. And I honor that. And we got people here in this room who were born in Africa. They need to know where they come from. They need to know what their people believed in. Mexico, Tennessee. You need to know where you come from, who you are. That shapes how you live your life. And we all together, Africa, Mexico, Croatia, Bosnia, all together, we trace our roots to that one place where God created Adam and Eve. And God says, on this one day, you remember where you come from. And you remember who I am. And you remember that I have created everything. And that I have created you. Heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But He rested on the seventh day. Lord made everything, but then God, rested on the seventh day. And therefore God blessed the Sabbath day, and He made it holy. So, in the Seventh-day Adventist tradition, we believe that National Sunday Law is actually was going to be a mark of the beast. When that happens. Now, we as a church have been accused many times of being anti-Catholic. You know that, right? Because we harp on this point that Sunday is not the right day to worship. And then some people, and I got to also admit that there are Adventists who take this a little bit too far, and because we have a lot of, my dad was a Catholic and grew up in a Catholic church. I bet you, how many of you have somebody in your family who is Catholic? Look at this. How many of us came from a Catholic background? You see what I'm saying? A lot of people. There are a lot of good Catholic people. Let me tell you what else I believe. I also believe that there are a lot of good Catholic priests who are not familiar with where we are going here today. I believe that. So we can't just be violently, I don't want to say opposed, but hateful to Catholics, you see. That's not what this is about. But Catholic Church does believe a little bit different than what we believe. And let me tell you what they believe. In the Seventh-day Adventist Church and in Protestantism in general, we believe that the Bible is the sole authority for our life. You follow me on this? Bible. You read the Bible, and the Bible tells you what to believe and how to behave and how to treat each other. That's what we believe in Protestantism in general and Seventh-day Adventism in particular. A Catholic theology does not teach that. Catholic theology teaches that the church has the authority over the scriptures. You follow me? In other words, they believe that the Pope and the cardinals and people on top of the church, that they have the right, God-given right, this is what they genuinely believe, God-given right to literally edit the Bible. So then somebody asked them, well, how do you prove that you have that right? And you know what the answer was? Because we changed the worship from Saturday to Sunday. You can find this in Catholic Catechism online. You don't need to take my word for it. That's what they said. People say, well, what gives you the authority to do this? They say, well, we already did it. And look at all of the billions of Christians who go to church on Sunday. We already changed it. We already changed the scriptures. So you have in Catholicism, you see this idea that what gives them the authority and the power is is permission to literally change the Bible. They believe that. In the Adventist tradition, we believe that Catholicism and Protestantism will unite one day in this country, religious unification of two of the most powerful Christian churches or religions, Protestant and Catholics, will unite and legislate that Sunday should be observed by all as a holy day. We believe that in the Adventist Church, and we teach that in our seminars, and we preach that in all kinds of sermons and so on. Personally, I believe that it's not just Catholics and evangelicals. I also believe that now there is another group, and that's environmentalists. And I'm not against the environment. I love the environment. If I could hug a tree, I would hug it. I love trees. And I love clean air. And I love, all of this stuff. I want to go to a river where I can fish and I can see the clear water, And I want to go into a city and not smell the diesel and gasoline and all of this stuff. And in America, we have done a tremendous job compared to many other countries in cleaning our air and water, pollution, and all of that stuff. You see, but what's happening right now, the Catholic Church has this initiative, and it's really taking off in Europe a lot. And the initiative basically says we need to stop working on one day of the week in order to save the environment. You see, and that one day of the week, well, obviously, it's Sunday, Now, for the environmentalists, for liberal people, for people who are not Christian, for people who do not believe in God, they don't care if we stop all the work on a Sunday or a Monday or a Thursday. To them, it's all the same. But they'll take Sunday if everybody else will, you see. So I believe that you have these three groups now, that when this happens, it is these three groups that are going to come together to pass such a law. I'm going to give you my personal opinion, what I think about this. And this may be harsh, but I think that the issue here really is Satan versus God. And you have this situation in the Garden of Eden, right? Very simple. In the Garden of Eden, Satan comes over to Eve and says, "You're not going to die." From the minute number one, he is contradicting God. From the get-go. God clearly said, you're going to die if you eat of that tree. And Satan comes over right away and he says, you're not going to die. So he's immediately contradicting what God has said. Now I want you to hear this. Eve, this is my personal opinion. Some of you may disagree. Eve was of clear mind. She was not deceived. I think she knew exactly what she was doing. You have a choice. Listen, God says you're going to die. This person says you're not going to die. Here you are a human being with all of your faculties, with the abilities of reason, with the abilities of logic. You have a choice. Do you believe God or do you go along with this? And she went along with this. People say deceived. I think Satan wants the humanity, the world, to choose to go along with him. That's what I think. Because if I deceive somebody, you can't hold that person accountable. If you give me a fake $20 bill and I go to the store and buy something with it. You can't hold me accountable for that. But if I go down to the copy machine and make my own, you see what I'm saying? When you make a clear choice, and she made a choice. She went along with this other idea, with this other statement. So that happened right away there at the first moment. What was the next thing that happens in the humanity? Sumeria and the ancient people before the Israelites. Look at this next picture. They start worshiping sun. The day of the sun. The day of the sun. Sunday worship goes long, long, long before Catholic Church came into existence. I mean, we are talking paganism 5,000-6,000 years ago. You see. Then when the Catholic Church came along, look at this next picture. Worshipping of the sun. The day of the sun. It's all becoming kind of mixed. When the people of Israel, when Moses went to receive the 10 Commandments, what did they do? They built a golden calf. You remember that story? Were they deceived or did they know what they were doing? They knew clearly what they were doing. Look, God led them out of Egypt. God went ahead of them in a pillar of fire at night. Imagine you go out there in the night sky of the desert. There is no cities, there is no lights. It's total darkness. And there is a pillar of light ahead of you. God's presence. And during the day there was a cloud in front of them leading the way for them. They literally saw the presence of God with their own eyes for 40 years. They literally saw the ocean part. I mean, they saw miracles. And Moses steps away for a minute. What they do, they build this calf, golden calf, and they worship it. And they bow down to it. On purpose, deliberately. They knew what they were doing. In America, we have also a golden calf. It's green. There you go. You see what I'm saying? We do what we want to do, people. We love money because we love money. We love this world because we love this world. People love pleasure because they love pleasure. People use drugs because they love it. People smoke because they love the feeling of that cigarette after a meal. Everything that people do because they want to do it. We're not deceived. We do what we want to do. I think that Satan wants the world to reject God. Willingly, deliberately, and of sound mind. That's my opinion. I don't think anybody's going to be deceived. I think people are going to choose. You know why they're going to choose that? Because they don't like the way of Jesus. The way of Jesus is not appealing. The way of Jesus is not... Even the Christian religion has become bastard. What's the word I'm looking for? Corrupted. Where we are teaching that God is going to give you money and prosperity and all of that stuff. Even that has been corrupted. The religion of Jesus is, you're going to have trouble in this world. You got to feed those who don't deserve to be fed. You got to take care of your neighbor. You may live all of your life and be poor. And if you are rich, then you're required to use that for the good and to help somebody else. You see, that's the religion of Jesus. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. Who wants to do that? In their right mind, who wants to do that? Think of a person you don't like right now. Think of somebody you really hate. Maybe it's a politician. Maybe it's Dr. Fauci. I don't know. Maybe. Think about somebody you really hate. And look at what Jesus says. You got to love that person. Jesus says you got to love that person. Why should I love my enemies? I'm going to give you an answer right now. Why does Jesus want us to love our enemies? Because He wants to save them. And because He wants you to be okay with that when you go to heaven and run into them. And how are you going to be okay with it if you don't pray for them now? If you don't pray for your enemies now and you run into them in heaven, you're going to say, what kind of God is this? Look at who He let in. But if you pray for them now, you're going to go to heaven and you're going to say, wow, God was able to save even that person. Amen. Who wants that religion? See why people reject Christianity? Even Christians reject Christianity. Even Christians only have a label that says Christian. But in their heart they hate gay people. They hate somebody who had an abortion. They hate somebody who doesn't believe the way they believe. They hate people in the government. I don't know how many times I've heard Christian people express their hate for whoever, either the former president or the present president. You see? And Jesus says you can't do that. So what are you going to be, and I? What are we going to be? Let me remind you, Satan wants you to deliberately choose his way. And his way is anything goes. Anything goes. You're not going to die. You can take from the tree. You can live your life any way you want to live it. And you're going to be okay. And that's appealing to a lot of people. A lot of people are saying, okay, yeah, I like that. I like that. Unfortunately, you know how it's all going to end. This next story is going to be with what we're going to finish. Jesus just healed a person. Jesus just healed somebody on a Sabbath day from a horrible disease. And the Pharisees, they're looking at this situation, and the Bible says when they saw that he healed this person on a Sabbath day, they were scheming on how to kill him. They rejected Jesus deliberately, with an open mind. They rejected him. And that's what Satan wants you and I to do, to reject Jesus. Aware of what they were thinking, Jesus withdrew from the place. Large crowds followed him, and he healed them all, warning them not to make him known. This was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah. Okay, and I want to read this next part, and I want to leave you with those thoughts. Here is my servant, whom I have chosen. God talks about Jesus. My beloved, in whom my soul delights. I will put my spirit on him, and he will proclaim justice to the nations. This is a prophecy. He will not quarrel or cry out. I love this. No one will hear his voice in the streets. When you see these preachers screaming and jumping up and down on a stage, That's not how Jesus preached. You follow me? Jesus was a quiet person. He had something to say. It wasn't about the show. And the Bible tells us, see, it tells us how Jesus was. He didn't quarrel. He didn't scream. Nobody heard his voice on the streets. A bruised reed he would not break. He watched his step. He was a careful and gentle person. And a smoldering wick he will not extinguish. And then look at the last two sentences. Till he leads justice to victory. In his name, the nations will put their hope. That's who we follow. No political party, no man, no matter what he says. That's who we follow. Because in the end, he leads justice to victory. There is no justice right now. There is no fairness right now. We don't even know what our own government is doing most of the time. We don't know. Everything is corrupt. Corporate profits, money, greed. They'll sell you anything and tell you it's good for you. We don't know, but Jesus leads everything to victory. And justice finally overcomes. And that's how it is going to end. Everything. So we can't get too worried. We can't get too upset. We have to follow Jesus. So my action plan for us, is very simple. Be like Jesus. Be like Jesus. Don't hate anybody. I believe that a lot of people mean good. A lot of people mean good. They're making the best decisions that they can. Don't hate them for it. Thank God we're still in a free country. If somebody wants a vaccine, God bless them. If somebody doesn't, that's their choice. Somebody wants to go to church on Saturday, more power to them. So be like Jesus. Do like Jesus. We got to do like Jesus. In this church Milos keeps telling me, we need to talk about mission. Because in this church we have a tradition of being mission-oriented. You see, working with the homeless, working with the hungry, working with the populations that really need help. That's what we are focusing on in this church. That's why we are collecting the food and the money and the finances to help those who are struggling and suffering. Be like Jesus, do like Jesus. Love like Jesus. I know that's hard, but we got to try to love people like Jesus loved them. I read this one article that talks about, this was the question that Barna Research did. They got together a whole bunch of non-believers, and they asked them this one question. If you were talking to a religious person, what would you want out of that conversation? And do you know what the vast majority of the people who do not believe in God said? They said, I would like them to hear my opinion without judging me. And when they asked Christians the same questions, we say, well, we'd like them to know the truth. You see, a lot of times we don't want to hear what other people have to say, because we assume right away that they're wrong. So we don't value their thought process. We have work to do. We have work to do with the Catholics. We have work to do with the evangelicals. We have work to do with people who don't believe in God. We have work to do with liberals and conservatives. But how do you do that work? You be like Jesus, you do like Jesus, and you love like Jesus. Everybody responds to that. And we got to do that without judgment. And sacrifice like Jesus. Jesus sacrificed everything for the salvation of others. He did. So when we do those first 4 things, then we also win with Jesus. You see? So I want to, invite all of us, and I'm glad you came today to church. I want to invite us all to calm down. God is in charge. Let's not focus on the world and all of the things that are of the world. Let's focus on being like Jesus, following His steps, doing the things that He wants us to do. And that takes searching my own heart. Search your own heart, ask the Lord to fix it. Ask the Lord to put His Spirit into your heart. Ask the Lord to put the Spirit of Christ, not just into your heart, but in your gut. You know what I mean? Where you see somebody and you feel for them because you want to see them saved. So that's my message for today. I hope it makes a little bit of sense. And if not, then I'm going to hear from you, and we're going to talk again next week. God bless you.